Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gayest Generation, where we hear LGBTQ older adults speak for themselves. Every episode, we sit down with a different member of the LGBTQ community who laid the foundation for the freedoms we have today. Their stories make noise where there is silence, and that silence has lived for far too long. In this episode, we speak with Lisa Middleton. We learn about what it's like to be one of the first openly transgender people elected to an American city council, how libraries played a role in her quest to live authentically, and how true love can look like driving around the same roundabout for 3 hours. This is the Gayest Generation.
Lisa Middleton. I identify as female. I am transgender, and I'm 69 years old.
69 wonderful years old. I'm so glad to be here with you today, Lisa. I understand that you are a member of the Palm Springs City Council.
I am. I was elected to the Palm Springs City Council in November 2017. At that time, I became only the second person ever elected to an office in California who was transgender. Vicky Kolakowski was elected to the Alameda County Superior Court in 2010, and then I got to follow her. My office is a political office, so I get to claim the title of being the first transgender person elected to a political position. When I was elected in 2017, Palm Springs became the first city council in America to be an all-LGBT city council, and we like to brag that we had the L, the G, the B, and the T covered.
Absolutely. I didn't know that about the first all LGBT city council. That is amazing. And usually I tend to like to start these conversations at the beginning, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about what the day in the life of a Palm Springs City Councilwoman is like. What does your day-to-day look like?
Well, it's a busy day, very definitely. Our constituents in Palm Springs are really involved. That's a great thing. But it also means that we're fielding phone calls and emails all day, every day. And so there's an awful lot of direct contact with our constituents. One of the things about municipal government that I think is really good, but it's taxing, is people believe that when they pick up the phone to call their city council member is going to answer that telephone. You don't have that feeling when you're talking, when you're thinking about your Congress representative or your state house representative. Most of us kind of expect, oh, I'm going to get an aide. If I get anybody, I'll get an aide. Well, that ain't the case when it comes to your city council. You want to talk to the person that you voted for or voted against, whichever the case may be. So there's a lot of constituency work. I'm involved in a number of regional organizations through the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, the League of California Cities, Riverside County Transportation Commission, MetroLink, which is Southern California's regional commuter rail board, and all of those are organizations that I really enjoy being a part of and working on regional issues. Those are meetings, and we're doing an awful lot of Zoom meetings. So that's at least making my time spent in the car commuting from one place to another much better than it previously had been. So I guess if I would try to sum it up, you spend your day doing constituent work, studying up on the issues that are going to be coming before you on council, doing regional work with colleagues from other cities and municipalities, and trying to get home for dinner.
Indeed. And considering all that the position entails, when you stepped into this role in 2017, what most surprised you about being an elected official, being a trans elected official? What's something that surprised you or intrigued you most?
Small surprise is how much work is involved on a regional basis, working in collaboration with colleagues across municipal lines. And there are a lot of those organizations. They do take a fair amount of time, but it's incredibly pleasing work in that you're working with individuals on real issues. For me, it's mostly been around transportation issues, but also there is a collegiality and a lack of competitiveness that seems to exist when you're talking to a colleague in another city that is just good to do.
And that totally knocks down my kind of false understanding about politics being like this cutthroat. And I'm sure, I know that it is, but maybe at the local level, it's not so competitive or cutthroat, as you said. Now, I must admit, my political experience really only extends so far as me running for class president in the 5th grade, which, mind you, I won. But I wanted to hear from you more about what it's like to run a campaign and to put yourself out there and try to get the votes. What was that experience like?
It's meeting people. It's telling a story. And I think what you're asking of voters when you're asking them to elect you is you're asking for the right to be their representative. And that's an obligation that you're taking on. And we've got very diverse populations, very diverse points of view. Nobody's ever going to agree with everyone on everything. What is incredibly gratifying is when someone comes up to you and says, I disagree with your conclusion, but you explained your position well. I understood what you were, why you voted the way you voted. I would have come to a different conclusion, but what you said and what you're doing makes sense to me. There are very few things that feel as good as knowing you got across to your constituents why.
Yes. And what you had just described, I think as a whole, we could use a lot more of that energy in America. You know, I might not completely agree with you, but I understand why you feel that way. I think that's a really powerful thing to be able to say. Now,
partisanship in state capitals in Washington, D.C. is such that it's just really difficult for folks there to get across that there's a why that is not explained and defined by whether you have an R or a D behind your name.
Yes. In thinking about the world in 2017, we're fresh off of Donald Trump's election. In 2017, or before that really, what inspired you to move into the political realm, to enter that arena? Why did you enter the world of politics?
Okay. Well, I I, like every other political science major in college, envisioned themselves running for office at some point in time. That's the way we major in that. And we come up with all kinds of wonderful explanations that, but we were thinking about it when we took that major, and I'm one of them.
So that seed's always been in your brain,
it's
you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I spent my working career in government on the non-elected side. And when we thought we had retired and moved to Palm Springs, certainly wanted to be involved in the community. One of the reasons we moved to this town is we wanted to live in an affirming LGBT community, and we wanted to know who our neighbors were and to have a sense of community. So that got me involved with our neighborhood organizations, which led to working closely with a lot of people at City Hall on neighborhood issues, and which ultimately led to an appointment on our planning commission. And from there, I was recruited to run for city council by some people I really liked who had won elections and in the past. And when they told me, we think you'd be a good candidate, they had an awful lot of credibility. And so my next question to them is, are you going to work and help in the campaign? And they said, yeah. And okay, then let's see what we can put together.
And are you a native Californian?
I am.
And whereabouts are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I was born in the Central Valley, but my family moved to the East Los Angeles area when I was about a year old. And I grew up in working class Southeast Los Angeles.
And what was Southeast Los Angeles like during that time? Can you paint the scene for us a little bit? Paint the scene for us a touch, yeah.
So, I started school in 1957. And so I grew up in the 50s and 60s. The Southeast LA area that I grew up was very working class. There were factories all about us. Uniroyal had a very large tire manufacturing plant a couple of miles from our home. Chrysler was building automobiles a few miles. In the other direction to the west of us, Bethlehem Steel had a huge steel making plant. I can still remember riding in the back seat of my parents' car and watching those incredibly large buckets of molten steel pouring down. It's so furniture manufacturers. We weren't too far from where LA's garment district was. The slaughterhouses were nearby. It may have been Los Angeles, but it was a million miles from Hollywood.
I see. Now, because you say Los Angeles, my mind goes there. But what you're saying is there's a million different stories within this thing that we call Los Angeles.
You better believe it.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite questions that I like to ask in these interviews is, what kind of kid were you?
I was I was pretty bright. And so I could get really good at an awful lot of things. I wasn't the most disciplined student in the world either. But I was one who spent a lot of time in libraries by myself reading.
I had a similar experience myself. During this time, as you're a kid in Southeast LA, it's the 50s, it's the 60s. As you're coming to age, if you will, when did you realize, hey, there's something going on with my gender? When did you first make that realization, and what did that realization feel like?
I first had the realization at 3-4 years old that there was something different, and I didn't know what words to use for it or anything else. And then as I got to 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, it was real clear I wanted to be somewhere else and someone else. That seemed impossible, and it felt like something I should be ashamed of and make sure that nobody knew. And I got really good at keeping secrets.
And as you're experiencing these emotions, how did you locate the language? How did you locate the information about what being trans is, or rather how it was understood then? Did you happen to find it within the stacks of the libraries that you often hung out in?
Yes, I did. I think the first time I really came across it, and I would be one when my mom and aunts would get in a circle talking. I wouldn't be allowed in that room, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be in the room, but I would find a corner and curl up where I could hear everything that was going on in the conversation and not be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was in one of those conversations where one of my aunts started talking and using very impolite and very unflattering language. But it clued me in. Oh, there are people.
I see. Even though she might not have been using the nicest words, you said, "Oh, that thing might be a little bit what I might be that thing, kind of."
Yes, absolutely. So then I did get into the libraries and started looking, and I don't remember where I first heard the name Christine Jorgensen, but I'll never forget there in the early 60s in the public library in our little town, standing in the biography section and just running through all of the books that were there and coming to the J's and finding her book.
And can you tell us a little bit about who Christine Jorgensen was?
Christine Jorgensen certainly was not the first person who was identified as transgender. In those days, the word was transsexual that was used, but she was far away the most famous. She came out in the early 1950s. Actually, there in her book, and I found this later, there's a letter that she wrote back to her family for when she was in Denmark. That was about the same time I was being born.
Wow.
Which was really cool to have that connection. But she came out in the early 1950s, had gender confirmation surgery from in Denmark. The story was broke in the newspaper, and over the course of the next year, her story was flashed across newspapers all over the world. When she landed back in New York City, which was the area she had grown up in, from Denmark, she was met by something like 200 reporters. There were early TV cameras that were rolling, and the headline in papers across the world were in the same typeface that was used to describe the end of World War II. No one has ever come out to face the kind of scrutiny that she faced. Very little of those stories, by the way, were complimentary.
I think it's, when I consider what you have just said, the average everyday person at that time, maybe the only time they've ever heard about transness, being trans, is when they cracked open that newspaper and saw Christine Jorgensen. Mm-hmm. How did the understanding of Christine Jorgensen differ from some of the academic articles that we had previously discussed? Was there a disconnect there, or how did the academic world kind of understand what being trans was at that time?
Thanks for asking that, because I did, I cracked open those academic journals and read everything I could on the subject. One, there was no such thing as female to male transgender. There were no stories about it. This was all the focus was entirely that you have some individuals born biologically male who identify with as female. They're not just simply unfortunate, effeminate gay men. They actually mentally think of themselves as female, as a woman, and wish to live their life as a woman. For the most part, the journals described such individuals with words of pity, and we should give them an opportunity to do the best that they can do. And it was a very unflattering description. It was, these were largely written by men, sometimes gay men, but more frequently straight men who were in the medical professions, and carried with them the misogyny and male privilege that would have been found anywhere in the professions in the 1960s. A male going to medical school in the 1940s and 1950s would only encounter women as nurses.
I see.
They're not as colleagues, not as, but
as helpers or mm-hmm. somebody who assists me in the thing that I'm doing.
Right. And so the approach to anyone who is identifying in a feminine fashion is this is someone who wants to be a helper, who wants to be subordinate, who doesn't see themselves in positions of responsibility or strength. Obviously, they hadn't met Hillary Clinton yet.
And you've sought out this information, and you've learned these things that really haven't held up over the course of time, just so the listeners know. But how did you react to that? Did you go, "Oh, that's me," or "That's not me at all"? Or how did you react to this new information?
One, I reacted, "That's not me. That's not who I want to be. Whatever else I am, I want pity from no one."
Yeah.
Two, I thought I had a chance to go to college, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to get. I did not want to go to work in a factory.
I see.
And I was the first in my family, extended family, to attend college, and that was really important to me to accomplish that. And in my mind, I had to make a choice as to whether to pursue college and a career, or to come out. And I chose college and a career.
Sometimes I crank my brain into what question would my grandpa ask mode. Because I think coming from that perspective is important. Mm-hmm. You are somebody who is married to a woman. When you are reading that information, does it at all make mention of sexuality? Was it even possible? That's not the right way to phrase the question, but you know your sexuality and you know your gender. As somebody who is attracted to women, how did those two things reconcile? How did you... Do you see what I'm trying to ask? Because I'm doing a really bad job of asking it.
No, you're doing fine. The language that we have today, that gender identity and sexual orientation are two very different things. And it, that sentence rolls off our tongue in 2021.
Yes.
As easily as you can imagine. It didn't in 1965. That sentence didn't exist. It didn't exist in 1975 or 85, to my memory, and it exists today because we've all encountered the lived experience of individuals who clearly define that. Some individuals are transgender and attracted to men. Some are attracted to women. Some of those, and so. And
I think it's important. People are apt to be confused by this idea that somebody who is trans can be attracted to people of their same gender. They're like, what? I remember some conversations I've had with my best friend's mom. Shout out to Miss Diana. And we were discussing, she was asking questions about what being trans means. And one way that I was able to expand her understanding of the trans experience is that just because somebody might have been born a male and are now female, that doesn't dictate their sexuality. It's two different things. So this is me just kind of underlining, bolding, italicizing that idea.
It is absolutely two different things, but we had to come to understand it. And I don't want to be overly critical of the fellow that I'm now going to talk about.
Please do. We tend to like that here.
Well, as a medical doctor, and I was there for a medical examination that, because of the level of position that I was at, the organization paid for annually a really high level physical exam of executives. So this wasn't a physician I would be seeing on a regular basis, but and he was fine. But at the end of our conversation that morning, he looked at me very confused and said, "I don't get it. If you're attracted to women, then why would you want to change your gender?" And of course, I told him the sentence that we've just said. Mm-hmm. But what stuck with me was implicit in his question and his misunderstanding was, as a heterosexual male, that heterosexual sex was preferable to homosexual.
I see what you're saying.
I doubt most gay men and lesbians would confirm that is the case.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
Sounded a little giggle.
It's so I'm not going to get into a debate as which one is better or worse, but we all know what we find
Absolutely
emotionally fulfilling, and so
yes, we know what we like. Now to fast forward, to go back to something that you had mentioned, you had said that you wanted to go to college. That's what your heart wanted, and in order to do so, you had to put your transness away.
Yep.
Is that do I understand that correctly? Is that the right metaphor? Or
it's an accurate one. I firmly believed when I started college and through college and when I started my career that I was making a choice. I could be what I felt inside, or I could pursue a career, but I couldn't do both. And there was ample evidence for that. And I came out in the early 1990s, and I came out because you can only keep things hidden so long.
Oof.
And I was pretty good at keeping secrets, but after a while, it catches up with you inside, and every ounce of energy is used for that. So early 1990s, I'm at a meeting of individuals, all who identify as transgender. And we have, over the course of a few days, various opportunities to interact with individuals. And at one point, young woman approximately my age, and I would have been in my right about 40 at the time, comes in, and she is going to give a discussion on work. And this would have been, I believe, 1992. And she's very attractive. She had a job working for a national organization that we would all recognize the name, but I won't out that particular organization.
Mm-hmm. What's it rhyme with? I'm kidding.
And she's good at it. And she's out to a few very select coworkers and friends, as she describes. But she's not out as transgender to her organization. And she describes the mid-level management job that she had previously at the time that she came out, and the abuse that she took that ultimately resulted in her leaving that profession and starting a new profession. And as she's going through and talking about the various strategies she used in getting employment in your true self, every reference was to work. And finally, after about 30, 40 minutes, I raised my hand and said, what if you don't have a job, but you have a career? Her answer was, your career, when you come out, is over. That was 1992, and it is over. And she repeated it again. She said, I'm sorry, that's the way the world works. If you hope to come out, you have to be, no, you are going to lose your career and you need to start over.
What a heavy thing to have to consider in is that something that you then later experienced? What has your experience been being a trans woman in the workplace?
So it was, yeah, at the time I was working and living in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, every day walking the main boulevards in San Francisco, doing whatever errands and the like you do. Homeless individuals, very frequent, and I'd always look at those during those folks who were homeless and wonder, am I going to end up there or not? But what I did was run into a couple of individuals through another organization who had successfully transitioned and maintained their careers. It wasn't a large number of people, but there was a law group out of that had done a lot of good work. And those connections that I made with individuals who had successfully managed the transition, those were the conversations and people I needed to know. And it was through those conversations of people who had done it that helped me develop the strategy that would make it possible to succeed when I transitioned. And I did. I took time to make the transition, and so that my employer was prepared for the transition. And if I take credit for something, it's having the patience to take the time to put people in a position where they could do the right thing.
And what do you mean by that specifically?
That they could be supportive, that they could be prepared to be supportive, that they could have the time to ask themselves, is this person transgender?
So what you're saying is you opened up a space for such a conversation to happen with kindness and understanding, and you were in a position where you could answer those questions to those people.
So I started doing some simple things. First, manicures.
I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then the manicures got a little bit more elaborate and a little bit more elaborate, always very professionally done. Was living in a largely gay neighborhood in San Francisco. It was identified that I was living there, had gone through a divorce. And why would somebody choose to live there? And, which created conversations that went on. Lost a tremendous amount of weight. Hair started getting just a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And so that over the course of a couple of years, folks got to the point where they started thinking through things. And so, and I made very good relationship with the gentleman who ran our company's or our organization's employee assistance program. That was strategic on two counts. One, I needed his help. And because I needed to be able to talk through this with psychologists and therapists, And through the EAP program, I was given connections that were really helpful. But two, because I knew this gentleman was very well respected within the organization, I had a very strong belief that at some point in time, he would be the one that senior executives would reach out to and ask questions of. Out gay man. And so he and I had a lot of conversation around that this could happen, and down to the afternoon where I got a phone call from him, and this is old days. He left a very short voice message, but it included a code word that told me that he had been asked the right question.
Aha.
And so at that point, the conversation with my boss and with the other senior executives became one of they had figured it out. And I did a couple of other things to make it really easy for them to start to figure it out.
I think something that I learned through this conversation with you, something surprising, is you were comfortable with yourself, and you had the patience and kindness to allow others to be comfortable with you at a pace that you thought was most helpful to them.
So, I hope so. But
yeah.
I encountered somebody about the time I was coming out in another organization, and she was getting ready to come out. And I remember I was on the phone with her one day, and she said, "I'm going to come out on Monday at work." And I said, "Are you ready? Are they ready?" And she said, "I don't care. I can't wait to see the shock on their faces when I come out." And it didn't go well. But as a high-level manager, I can tell you there's no one in management who likes surprises. Most of us don't like surprises to begin with. But if you're a manager, you're an executive, shock and surprise is not what you're looking for. You're trying to plan to run an organization, to have things succeed, and then somebody comes in and overturns the table, and it's just not a happy day. So the manager in me knew not to shock people, not to surprise people. That's not going to be a good feeling.
And I think a result of you coming out in the workplace the way that you did is that hopefully in 2021, that's not so much as a consideration. In 2021, somebody can feel more, can say, "Hey, I'm trans," and people just go, "Okay, nice, cool."
I think we have made some progress, and if folks can today be less intentional or and strategic because there's just more openness and acceptance, then that's wonderful.
You are married to your second wife. What was it like to find love during that chapter of your life? What is that? Tell me that Hallmark story, because I'm ready.
Oh, hey, we were in our 40s. We had both had long relationships at one point in time and had been single for a while, and met, and it didn't take very long before we figured out this is the person I want to be with. The Hallmark story is, well, there's a bunch of them, but here's the one where I absolutely knew it was true. Anyone who has ever flown in or out of San Francisco International, particularly around 20 years ago, knows that the flight departure and flight arrival times are just estimates and prayers that the airline hopes that they may be able to attract. And if you take off and land within 24 hours of what was on the ticket, you're feeling pretty good. So Cheryl offered to pick me up from the airport. It wasn't necessary for me to be picked up from the airport, but she did, and it was a chance to get together. The plane was 3.5 hours late. She spent 3.5 hours driving around the roundabout in San Francisco International, waiting for that plane to finally land and pick me up. And when I found out she had spent 4 hours driving around that stupid roundabout, this woman's for real.
Yeah, that's love. LOVE. Yeah. That's wonderful. And now, as you're at this place in your life where you're a city councilwoman, you're married, 69 years young. For anybody who might be listening to this, who might be trans, what's something that you would like them to know?
You are who you are, and you can never change that. I got an opportunity a few weeks ago. One of the local television reporters has a foundation that she started first for 12-year-old girls and now just 12-year-old children. And every year she brings for a weekend about 400 or 500 12-year-olds together to just talk about their lives and interact with other individuals. And I got to be one of the 2 folks that she invited this year to talk to the folks and answer this following simple question: what would you tell your 12-year-old self?
And what did you say?
I told them that I am transgender and that I knew that when I was 12 years old, but I refused to let anyone admit it or know it, and that you cannot fool yourself. Who you are is who you are. Be proud of who you are.
And I think there's something to say as well about children's ability to listen and to be accepting of new experiences. Mm-hmm. I kind of think that as people get, as we get more mature, and as more mature, there's air quotes, big air quotes. As we get more mature, we become more closed-minded. And I think there's something really amazing to say about kids, because you said 400 to 500 12-year-olds, mm-hmm. and you stepped before them and you said, I'm trans. And I bet $1 American that they just said, oh, okay, and did some listening.
There was wonderful applause.
Yes. And I would bet $1 American as well that if that was a room of 50-year-olds, 30-year-olds, there might be a little bit of there'd be an audible something in the air.
Well, if it happened, if you bring 50-year-olds together in the Coachella Valley, they've seen me on television.
They've seen you at the TVs and the magazines.
My name's in the newspaper. It's on TV, and so my identity's. I'm always completely shocked when I run into somebody who does not know my background.
Yeah. I'd like to consider this for people who might be listening to this who are of a similar age to you. What's something that you would like them to know about your experience on the planet?
Well, for folks my own age, we share the joy that everybody has of when you're within your age group. We all have the same similar memories of growing up and the technologies that were comfortable when we were growing up, the music that we grew up with, and so forth. So I just take great comfort in spending time with people in my age group. And no offense to anybody else, but
None taken.
It's we laugh and carry on about the technology and our inability to use it.
Well, I must say, your facility with Zoom is spot on.
Yeah, a whole lot of practice at that.
Yeah.
It's not that we can't do it. It's just that one, we often don't want to do it, and two, no offense intended, but somewhere in Silicon Valley, there is a whole fleet of 30-year-olds who, the moment that they realize that I know how to do something from technology, go into panic mode to make sure they change it by tomorrow morning, because obviously it's out of date.
Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg is fielding calls. Lisa understands how to use Facebook. We got to fix it. We got to mess it up again.
Yeah. This gayest generation, this generation that I'm a part of, we're the first out generation. It was people, it wasn't me, but it was people my age that stood there on Christopher Street in 1969 and said, enough. One of our best friends was on Christopher Street that night. He was 24 years old, and as he described it, he had been dancing all night long, and then left the dance at another bar to go be there. I've run into probably about a dozen people here in Palm Springs over the last few years who were on Christopher Street those nights. They're telling stories that you can't make up. They really were there. I'm really proud of my generation that we're that first out generation. And a lot of things happened to make it possible for us to be that first out generation. But we were, and time for the LGBTQ community begins in June 1969 and counts forward from that date when being out was an identity that no one was going to walk away from.
And a big part of why we do this podcast is that it is important that people my age and younger understand that, like, consider the word trailblazer, right? There was no trail until y'all. It was blazed for us, and we are following in the footsteps. And that needs to be recognized. It needs to be discussed. Mm-hmm. And like many queer people do, it's a matter of saying, I'm here and I was there too. And that's some powerful stuff. Mm-hmm. And we thank you for it. We do.
So one of my favorite authors is Willa Cather.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote in the 19 teens and 20s and 30s, died in 1947. She and Edith Lewis spent the last 40 years of her life together. And in 1947, an expression of your love for the person that you had spent your life with was burning all of the letters that you had exchanged with her so that there would not be direct evidence of who you were.
Oh, wow.
We didn't create gay and lesbian. It's always been there. We didn't create
Yes.
any. But 5 years before I was born, that's what someone in our community would do.
And I guess what we're trying to do here is, this is a letter we're not going to burn.
No.
Oh. Wow. Talking to you just reminded me, I am so glad that I get to do what I do and to be here and talk with you. I just thought to myself, oh, I'm so lucky. And I am.
We're lucky to have you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's not take it too far. So yes, some silly fun questions just to get to know you more as a person, and also I love listening to what the different people I've interviewed have to say. But what is the biggest difference between younger and older LGBTQ folks?
Oh, gosh. There's you're not very patient.
You're right.
And that's good and bad, but you're not very patient.
Yep. I couldn't agree more, and I'll leave it at that. Patience is a virtue indeed. What do you feel about people using the word queer?
It took me a while to get comfortable with that. And I've got some friends who are still really struggling with it. But it took an awful lot of folks some time to get used to transgender.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my turn to take some time to get used to something that doesn't immediately make sense to me, but does with reflection.
That's a really powerful perspective. What are you watching on TV?
Oh, I watch the local news until I know that I'm not going to be on it that night, and then fast forward the PBS NewsHour, and then I'm still a sports fan, and so I watch my teams.
And if I remember correctly, you're a Dodgers fan, no?
Oh, die hard.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Betty Davis or Joan Crawford?
Oh, Betty Davis.
I could say a million things. What has been your best Halloween costume?
Oh, I don't do costumes.
Oh, no. What makes you happy?
Well, my family makes me happy. That's what makes me happiest. The hobby that I have that I don't get to practice much anymore is cutting stained glass, and when I get out of the political world, Charlotte's promised me a studio here, and there's very few things I enjoy as much.
What gives you hope
to do this?
You made that?
Yes.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I am a really
You should sell that. You got a cash cow right there.
good amateur or a bad professional.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I hear that. What, in your opinion, is the best age?
the age you are.
Oof. You get to have dinner with 3 people, alive or dead. Who are they?
Oh, that question gets asked in the New York Times book review every week.
I might have pulled that. Do I need to be sending them money or something? No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Certainly. My heroine, Jan Morris, Willa Cather, another of my favorite authors. And then it's either Virginia Woolf or John Le Carré. And I can't decide whether or not I want to let a man into that room. It's probably Virginia.
I am a gay man attracted to men, and I wonder that all the time. Do I really want to let a man in? The answer is usually no. What's your favorite fast food?
Oh, it used to be In-N-Out burgers, but we've got a real controversy going on with them in California right now because they are very ostentatiously violating our vaccination mandates for the customers. So I'm going to have.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah,
that's rough.
It is.
What part of aging has brought you the most joy?
These last 10 years, living in Palm Springs has brought me the most joy. This is just an unbelievably wonderful community to be a part of.
And something that we had discussed when I first met you was that a part of you moving to Palm Springs was that you wanted access to healthcare that was healthcare that a trans woman of your age would actually benefit from. Mm-hmm. And what that had made me realize is that for the majority of people in America, that is just not the case.
It's not. And it varies tremendously. We were living, before we moved to Palm Springs, in a very attractive community about 45 miles north of downtown San Diego. And anyone who knows those 45 miles into downtown San Diego knows that it can, if you leave at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can probably do it in about an hour. The rest of the time is going to take you 2 hours or more to get from place A to from one place to the other. We accessed all our health care in downtown San Diego. We did not go to doctors locally. I had on a couple of occasions when accessing healthcare locally in northern San Diego County, some ugly encounters, and you just didn't want to go back. Mm-hmm. So being 2 hours away when you're 60 years old is not necessarily a problem. When you're 80, it could be an impossibility. So healthcare and that it was local, affirming, culturally competent mattered tremendously. And we get that in Palm Springs and the Coachella Valley. We are truly blessed in terms of the quality of the cultural competence of the physicians and healthcare institutions that are in this town.
That is huge. And I hope that America gets to a place where that's something that's available everywhere. Because we're humans and we need that, point blank, period.
I spoke to a transgender man who lives in rural Alabama last year. And it takes him 8 hours round trip to drive to Atlanta to receive hormones. Mm-hmm. He does not describe the physician that he sees in Atlanta as being particularly affirming or supportive, but at least he gets the hormone therapy that he needs. That's the case for an awful lot of people.
And you've been so kind to answer every question that I've asked, silly or otherwise. If you could ask me any question, what would it be?
What are we in my generation doing right when it comes to interacting with folks in your generation? And what do we consistently get wrong?
Ooh, I think what the older generations are getting right is that, in my experience, I've been shown an ability. Y'all are good listeners.
Okay.
And and to echo back to what you had said, there's a patience there. There's a wisdom. And because I've been in spaces with LGBTQ older adults, I've been able to receive that wisdom and to converse in a very meaningful way. Mm-hmm. This pertains to gay men. Mm-hmm. What gay older men need to stop doing is, when I'm trying to have a conversation with you and I'm trying to learn about you, and I am coming from a place of interest, positivity, and I'm coming from a good place. Don't hit on me. Do not hit on me. Don't do it. It's not for any other reason than the fact that I would very much like to know about your life. And you can just, mail me an Olive Garden gift card, and that would be that. But no, that's what I would say is wrong. It's something that I would, and this is gay men specifically, but that's kind of all gay men. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time to, for letting us get to know you, and for sharing your wisdoms with us today. I am terrible at goodbyes because I have so much to say and I don't know how to say it. So I just end up saying thank you.
Two of the most powerful words in the English language when you mean them.
If you or someone you know is interested in being a guest on the show, email thegayestgeneration@aadl.org. That's The Gayest Generation at AAD as in dog, L.org.